My top 50 favorite characters. This isn't top 50 best, top 50 favorite. I did not want to go through the mental strain that would be taking 50 characters from almost 50 different stories with completely different roles and then going, okay, which one is better than which? So for me, this is a whole lot easier because there is no particular order with this. These are just my 50 favorite. The only one that I think really is in order is my number 1 spot. So other than that, if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications. And for those that are already subscribed, thank you so much for 150k. Thank you. So moving on to the list, the first character is Broly. Broly is probably the character that got me into anime. I remember being a kid and watching the movie and absolutely falling in love with the character. It looked like an absolute beast that just destroyed everything in his path, and I still love the concept of Broly to this day. Next on the list, we have another one of my favorite characters, and that's Vegeta. Vegeta, listen, when somebody says there's no character development in Dragon Ball next time, just point to Vegeta. I mean, what is there to say? Other than he gets whooped everything from Saiyan Saga to Namek Saga to the Android Saga, and then in the Buu Saga when he became Majin Vegeta. Vegeta is just that dude before being that dude in a show was a thing. Next, and again, this isn't order as of least favorite to favorite. This is just where I ended up writing them on the list. But at number 48, I have Obito. I love Obito, probably my favorite character from Naruto for many different reasons. Swag and I talked about this on ranking the Akatsuki video, but I think he's also one of the most misunderstood characters. Even though he kind of states things pretty clearly, people just seem to really ignore it. Next on the list is Shoya from A Silent Voice. I love this character. I think this is a really well done protagonist. Kind of seeing his growth and a lot of the relatable aspects of who he is and how he wants to improve was really nice. And A Silent Voice is actually one of the few stories that was capable of making me cry, and I mean cry a lot. And it's really due to a lot of the scenes with Shoya where he's contemplating himself and what he wants to do. Overall, it's a really beautiful story that's capable of pulling your heartstrings, and Shoya as a protagonist is one that you can really learn to support. So if you haven't gone into A Silent Voice, I definitely recommend you do so. Next one is from Record of Ragnarok, and that's Jack the Ripper. For me, out of all the characters so far, I think other than Adam, I think Jack the Ripper is probably the best done character in Record of Ragnarok so far. I think the way that they try to portray his character throughout it all, introduction, through the fight, and especially after the fight, is what really solidified him being on this list. Next character is Naofumi. Alright, now Nux, just because I have the feeling that you're watching this video, leave me alone. I like Naofumi, I'm not backing down from it. I am a huge sucker for a revenge story, and the way Naofumi carries himself throughout the entire series is one that I actually find pretty enjoyable. Yes, he's a jerk for a decent amount of it, I'm okay with it. You like Fairy Tail. Next one on this list is actually a character from Fairy Tail, and that's Zeref. What can I say? Zeref is easily the best character in Fairy Tail by far. You could argue he's a little bit too good for the story of Fairy Tail, but the tragic tale in which he's kind of entwined in and everything about him is just absolutely incredible. I love it. Next one on the list is Death from Soul Eater. I really love Death from Soul Eater. Love it absolutely. So much so that I wish that there was a spin-off specifically on Death. Now, I'm also a pretty big fan of Asura or the Kishin, and you could definitely argue there's more to other characters, especially within the manga like Black Star, Death the Kid, Maka, in fact, any of the main cast. And I'm also a pretty big fan of Kurono myself as well. But when it comes to just aesthetics and how cool I think the character is, for me, Death was the coolest one by far, other than another character who will feature later on the list. Next one is Aizen. Now, I'm currently on the Fullbringer arc, so no spoilers, please, but up to this point, where I am finishing the Hueco Mundo, Arrancar, Fate Card, Core Town, all of that, Aizen has got to be the coldest antagonist I have read in a while. It's just mind-blowing, everything Aizen does, and it's hard to fathom. Is it a little exposition dumpy? Yes. I'm okay with it, though, because Aizen makes it believable, which is the crazy thing. I hope as I keep reading Bleach, though, that they add more to Aizen, especially a backstory. I would really love to see the motivations and the intentions of Aizen, and maybe more of his quote-unquote human side. That would be nice. But regardless, he's definitely one of my favorite characters in Bleach, and just one of my favorite characters, period. Hence why he's on this list. Now, speeding things up a bit, the next three are JoJo's characters: Funny Valentine, Kira, and Gyro. Valentine is one of the examples on this list where, even though I may not like him maybe the most out of certain characters within the series, I end up loving the character because of how well their role was fulfilled. In other words, Valentine was such a great antagonist in part Part 7, I have no other feeling but respect and admiration for his character. You could technically say the same thing about Kira, although even though I think Valentine is better than Kira, I like Kira more than Valentine, Kira having my favorite stand in all of JoJo's. And if I'm gonna be honest, the biggest highlight by far in Part 4 was Kira. Versus Part 7, there was Johnny, there was Gyro, and Valentine. Part 4 for me was really the Kira show. And Gyro is the best JoBro in the series by far. You could argue one of the, if not the best JoJo character, although I might give that to a character like Johnny Joestar, but I absolutely love Gyro. Now the next two characters I could have grouped in with Aizen, but I didn't, and I'll just throw them out there now, and that's Grimjao and Ulkiora. I'm not going to say too much about them here. If you want to hear my thoughts on them too as a character, you can check out the Bleach review series that I have been doing. But the next character on the list comes from Holy Land, the manga, and that's Yu Kamishiro. Great protagonist, just a great protagonist, somebody who goes from weak to strong, and that sounds pretty basic on a surface level, but it's executed to perfection. Next one is another really well done protagonist, and that's Gabi Maru from Hell's Paradise. I love Hell's Paradise. It's one of my favorite new gen series to come out, and I'm very excited for the anime adaptation. There's a really cool mental dynamic that's played with Gabi Maru's character and his motivations that kind of plays throughout the entire narrative of the story, and I love it, and it's really well done. You could say there's maybe a little bit of a similarity with Gabi Maru and Ulkiora, being that Gabi Maru is known as Gabi Maru the Hollow or the Empty, and kind of Ulkiora's whole thing is being empty and there being nothing, just a void. But yeah, moving on, we have Garou from One Punch Man, easily my favorite character in One Punch Man, redefining the role of antagonist a little bit, and is just great to see him fight. Next, we have Spike from Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop, arguably one of the greatest anime of all time, and Spike, one of the coolest protagonists of all time, as well as just well done protagonists. And honestly, the same could be said for the next two, which is Alucard from Hellsing and Vash the Stampede from Trigun. Now, in terms of cool factor, Alucard is up there with the tippity top. There's not many cooler than Alucard, although when it comes to writing as a protagonist, I think Vash the Stampede definitely takes that category. Now, the next one is gonna be a pretty controversial one, I can see, when the anime does come out and if the anime blows up, and that's Takemichi from Tokyo Revengers. Takemichi's a very emotional protagonist, but I think he truly redefined strength and what it means. I think given the circumstances that he's always being thrown in, a lot of his reactions are understandable and pretty realistic, again, knowing who he was back in the days of his middle school years. But seeing how he addresses certain things like loneliness, and again, redefining what strength means, and even though being the weakest one there, being able to be the strongest one there, is something that's done really well in Tokyo Revengers. He's a really inspiring protagonist who's able to kind of rally everyone around him and push forward. Now, I understand maybe some of you picking Mikey over Takemichi. That's totally understandable and fine, but I'm gonna go with Takemichi on this one. Next, we have Professor Stein from Soul Eater. One of the most unique within the mentor role within a series. He's this mentally unstable monster in the form of a man, and Soul Eater does an amazing job of portraying his mental state, especially when Medusa comes along. Next, we have Light from Death Note. Death Note was one of the first anime that I had seen, and Light's character absolutely blew me away, and it still stands up even years later now that I've read so many other stories. Now, you can't talk about Light without bringing up L, and even though I love L as a character and I think he's amazing, if I had to pick between the two, I'm gonna pick Light. One of the main examples within anime and manga of a protagonist not necessarily having to be the good guy. Your protagonist can be evil, and Light is the perfect example of this. Next on the list, we have a really well done character, a really well done antagonist, one of the most terrifying antagonists you will ever encounter, and that is Bondrewd from Made in Abyss. Look, if you haven't read Made in Abyss yet, I've already done my review video on it. Do it for this character at least. Like, there's lots of great things to Made in Abyss, especially its world building. It's this thing that has a very cute childish aesthetic but then goes full on horror psycho mode. But if there's anything I'm gonna try and sell you on when it comes to Made in Abyss, is that it offers one of the best antagonists ever, also one of the best dads in anime and manga ever, and that's this guy, Bondrewd. Next up on the list, we have Ishigami from Kaguya-sama. I love Ishigami, I love Kaguya-sama, it's one of my favorite series ever, and I actually caught up to Kaguya-sama as of recently, and it's pretty wild the direction they're going in, not gonna lie. But yeah, Ishigami, best boy. Moving on, we have Onizuka from Great Teacher Onizuka. One of the coolest characters ever. Great Teacher Onizuka is my favorite manga ever. Onizuka is not only one of the greatest mentors in all of anime and manga, but he equally does this while being the protagonist of the series. GTO is a series that's capable of offering many life lessons no matter what age range you are. Next character on the list is also a mentor, and that's Kakashi. Listen, before Shippuden came out, you were either Rock Lee, Gaara, Sasuke, or Kakashi fan. It was one of, and most of us were like diehard Kakashi fans. Now, with the exception of like this weird 1% that includes CBR, Kakashi is by far one of the most beloved characters in all of anime and manga period. He's kind of the complete package. He's a character who's not only extremely well written, he's mysterious, he's cool, and he offers a lot of great comedic moments as well. He's laid back, and he's just an overall enjoyable character with some of the coolest fights within the series as well. How can you not love Kakashi? Next on the list, I have Reinen from Kengan Ashura. Reinen is the devil of Kengan Ashura, one of the most aggressive, brutal fighters, if not the most aggressive and brutal fighter within the series, and I just love his attitude. Next on the list, we have Sakuragi from Slam Dunk, another really well done protagonist in another amazing series. Slam Dunk has a lot of great comedic moments with Sakuragi, and it's really amazing to see the character grow, just as the manga seems to grow in and of itself, as you see Inoue constantly improve with his artwork. Not really much else to say though. Next on the list, we have Shinichi from Parasite, also another really well done protagonist, and I love Parasite as a series, talking about what it means to be human and the value of humanity, and seeing everything this protagonist goes through and how he develops is some of the best development in all of anime and manga period. And the same could be said for the next character, and that's Kei Kurono from Gantz. Now, you could say his best friend is a much more enjoyable character, and you kind of hate Kei at certain points throughout the series, but as he develops, you learn to love his character a lot. And once it's all said and done and you're done reading Gantz and whatever criticisms we might have on some of the very questionable plot decisions, there's no doubt that the protagonist of Gantz is worthy of his praise. Now at number 19 and 18, we have two characters from Dorohedoro, and that's Shin and Kaiman. Kaiman is a really, I think, underappreciated protagonist, as there's so many different aspects to him, especially with the whole identity thing that he goes through. So overall, just a really well done and fleshed out character. And then we have Shin. Shin is just raw. Like, Shin is just so raw. An amazing backstory within the series, but every time he's on panel, there's nothing, you just can't help to love his character. Dorohedoro, in fact, actually boasts one of the best casts, I think, in manga, with a lot of versatility with its characters and characters that bring about different things to the table, and Shin is a great representation of that. An amazing character design with a great backstory and a lot of great moments. Now, the next two characters on the list come from Tokyo Ghoul, and that's Kaneki and Utta. Kaneki, in my eyes, is a really well done character. Sometimes one that I see is very slandered because people try to instantly dismiss him as just edgy, when I think there's a lot more to Kaneki. Now, the duality of his character in concept isn't too unique. We see that a lot with protagonists that seem to be these really good guys with these extremely horrifying dark sides, meant to symbolize the struggle within us as people. And so even though in concept it's not the most unique, in execution it's done really well through this thematic beauty that's done through Kaneki's character. Now, Tokyo Ghoul Re, I think, had some really great peaks within the series, although I think narratively it had some decisions that I really didn't like, and so I think Tokyo Ghoul, the original Tokyo Ghoul, was a lot more consistent. Seeing Kaneki grow through it all in front of my eyes was just beautiful. And Utta's one of my favorite characters just because of the concept of his character. Execution-wise, I think he's really cool as well, and he definitely plays a much bigger role within Tokyo Ghoul Re, but him being the guy who makes the masks within the series, and me being a huge fan of masks, it was kind of like meant to be. Pause. Oh my god. Pause! So with Kaneki, it's more so, I think, the quality of his character, not only my enjoyment of his character. With Utta, it's more so really just my pure enjoyment of the character. Next on the list, we have Askeladd from Vinland Saga. Askeladd is and I've said this a lot on the list so far, and I'm gonna keep saying it, but Askeladd is one of the best not only antagonists in anime and manga, but I think just one of the best characters, period. Not many characters can boast serving the different roles within their series that Askeladd does to the level that he does it. I'm gonna be honest, at first I wasn't the biggest fan of his character, and all the things that I had heard I didn't really see at first, but once he started speaking a little more, and once the chapters kept coming along, I could really start seeing how special his character was, all the way from start to finish. Now, the next character is Bond from Seven Deadly Sins. It was one of the first animes I had saw in the year 2018 when I was starting to expand my anime watching list a lot more, and I love this character. It's kind of sad to see how Seven Deadly Sins really went downhill with the ending, but at the end of the day, no matter what you want to say about Seven Deadly Sins plot or narrative, it has a ton of enjoyable characters, and my favorite out of all of them is, well, Bond, the Foxen of Greed. Now, the next character is Sinbad from Magi. I love Sinbad from Magi. I even did a video on Sinbad from Magi, and I'm very happy that one of my most viewed videos ever is titled Remember Magi. Look, Sinbad was such good of a character that they gave the man his own spin-off just because he was that well received. Sinbad showed up, Sinbad shows up to the show kind of late, but he's so good that everybody forgot that he wasn't the protagonist. I'm not gonna say much more. I have sung the praises of Sinbad many times already. Moving on to the next character, we have Akumetsu from the series Akumetsu. Okay, so hold the phone. Okay. I've done a review already on Akumetsu, but I'm gonna say it again here. Akumetsu is by far the most underappreciated series I have encountered. Hardly anybody talks about it. It doesn't have an anime, and it is a really well done series with one of the most enjoyable protagonists ever. He's quite literally the combination of Punisher and Deadpool bringing justice to Japan, and it's mind-blowing to see how he does it. Again, a character who just has extreme versatility, is capable of being extremely serious and thought-provoking with his philosophy and his ideals, but also just really hilarious when he's trolling people. Now, next on the list, I have Marowam from Hunter x Hunter. Now, there's a lot of characters from Hunter x Hunter that I really like. Killua, Leorio, Kurapika, Hisoka, Chrollo. But if I had to pick my favorite character, and also who I think is kind of the best character in Hunter x Hunter, at least on the antagonistic side, is Marowam. The Chimera Ant arc really kicks it up a notch once he's finally played into effect, and seeing him as a developing antagonist is beautiful. Now, just like a lot of other antagonists on this list that I've brought up already, he is an amazing foil to the protagonist throughout the arc that they're currently in, and every time he was on screen, he was intimidating or pushing the plot or just being an amazing character. Now, believe it or not, we actually have a character from One Piece on the list, and that's Doflamingo. I've expressed it many times that I love Doflamingo. I absolutely adore Doflamingo. For me, the best antagonist in One Piece up to the point that I have read. And as an antagonist, you can argue Doflamingo has it all. He has the great build-up, he has the amazing speeches, the intimidation factor, the ability to push the narrative how he wants to, a great fight, and just overall an extremely memorable character who has a pretty big influence on the world of One Piece, playing the role that he does. Now, the next character we have is General Uki from Kingdom. Another character kind of like Sinbad that, even though isn't the main character of the series, is still so amazing in the time that he is on screen or on panel that you just love the character regardless. Now, last time I checked, Kingdom isn't too popular over here in the West, at least, and the anime adaptation was pretty bad. And when it came to this spot, I was kind of stuck with General Uki and the protagonist from Kingdom itself. However, I decided to go with the General because he's just such an amazing character, and the Kingdom fan base has nothing but love and respect for, and I do as well. Now, to kind of get the process speeding along, I'm going to run through the final characters that we do have. We have Pain from Naruto, who's one of the best antagonists in Shonen period. Next, we have Thorfinn from Vinland Saga, an amazing development as a character and just phenomenal. Next, we have Lelouch from Code Geass. Need I say why Lelouch is on this list? Next, we have Eren from Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan having one chapter left, and I'm really excited to see how they end it. Now, personally, I think Thorfinn is better than Eren. Some people try to argue that Eren's better all because he chose violence. That's a really stupid mindset. I think both of them are S-tier protagonists that you could easily make a case for one of the other. Next is Musashi from Vagabond. After that, we have Griffith from Berserk. Now, Griffith is a great example of a character that I hate, but I love for how good he is as an antagonist, and I love how much I'm able to hate him. Next is Johan from Monster, not only one of my favorite characters, but partially one of my favorite just because of how well he does the role of antagonist. For me, I've always said Johan's the 1A and Griffith is 1B when it comes to greatest antagonist of all time. And then my number one character, my favorite, and I'd argue the greatest protagonist in anime and manga, is the good old black swordsman. Go ahead. No, go ahead. You probably already did it throughout this video. In fact, you already probably did it at the beginning of the video before watching it. But I see you using the same overused joke from 2013. Go ahead, leave your Kirito Black Swordsman comment. Do it, go ahead. But at number one is Guts from Berserk. I've already done a video, multiple videos examining Guts' character, and there's not much else I really have to say. My number one shouldn't have surprised anybody. But hopefully you enjoyed this type of video. I might do an updated list on drafting my top 10 protagonists and drafting my top 10 antagonists, so hopefully y'all enjoy that. And if you do want to see that, let me know in the comment section below. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications. That way notify whenever a new video pops up on some of your favorite anime, manga, whatever content. As always, hope you have a blessed rest of the day, and peace.